welcome to the 3D Code Experience. My name is John Pennington. I'm doing a series of tutorials with 3D Code, the software for modeling and texturing. Got lots of powerful features in it. We're doing this for the Cube of High fans. And so just follow along with us. First we're going to do a setup so that everybody's on the same page. When you start your program, usually you'll come into this, and so we're going to go into voxel sculpting, and then we're going to select a primitive mode. There's a object that's going to come up in the next screen. It's going to look like a cylinder. We're going to click on that, and then when that comes up, there we go. Okay, so that's going to take us into the ability to choose any of these primitives up here at the top. We're going to use the capsule when we start modeling. But before we do that, let's set this up so that we make sure that you and I are seeing the same user interface at the same time. So if I tell you to go somewhere, it'll be there for you. So start off by going to Windows, go down to Reset All Pages to Default. You notice some of my stuff has disappeared. We're going to bring that back in a little bit, but I want you to know how we got there, not just look at it and say, why doesn't mine look like that? Okay, so first thing is I like to be in my front view when I start. So over here on camera, you can go front, which is also number 2. So I'm going to press the number 2 on my keypad. I'm in my front view, which means my camera is pointing at the face of my model. If this was a human face, we'd be looking right at his eyes. Okay, also up here we have the ability to toggle between perspective and orthographic. We want to be in orthographic. If you're in perspective in your modeling, you actually aren't seeing the model the way you want to see it. We'll talk more about that in depth at another time. For now, I'm going to model a teddy bear using primitives. Okay, so we're going to start with the capsule shape. And the primitives, now you notice the tool options first off jumped up over here, okay? And it won't jump up on everything, but when the tool you've selected has options, this will come up. I like to dock this right over here, so I bring this right over next to all my other resources. The little blue bar like that comes up, and I let it go, and there it is. It's docked in there. Okay? Now, the other thing I want to do before I go any further is I want to also enable my symmetry. So I go up here to symmetry. Down here, I could have pressed S, but when you press S, this box doesn't come up and stay up. So now I'm going to drag this next to tool options and see how that blue rectangle comes up. Drop it in there. Now the two are side by side. You can click between them. Okay, so we're looking at the tool options, and we're looking at the actual primitive. This is the primitive for the capsule. Every one of them will be a little bit differently. Okay, we spoke about this earlier, but you have arrows in different colors. So your colors represent your axes. Your yellow is your Y, the blue is your Z, and the X's are your red. Okay, so now I can use these arrows to move them up and down, or vertically or horizontally based on my viewpoint. Okay, and then I've got other things in this particular one. I'm going to go in closer so you can see more of this. I'm going to give a little bit of a tilt so you get an idea of all the actual tools that are on this capsule. Okay, these rings are things you can grab a hold of. Now when you highlight them, when you touch them, they highlight. That means that tool is active. You click down, everything else goes transparent, so then I can just use that tool. Okay, Control Z gets you back to where you were before that. Now that one in the middle actually made the whole thing thick. Well, this would actually just give me the ability to thick or thin the top or bottom. The little squares, and you'll see these on all your primitives. You'll also see it on these items that I'm talking about on your transform tool. These are scale tools. The one in the middle scales uniform. The whole thing scales in proportion to the original size. The ones on the sides will scale to the side or to the front, just depending on which one you're pulling on. Now if it has a slight curve to it, you got the blue one and the red one visible here. There actually is another one. We've got the blue, the red, and yellow. If I were to spin this on the yellow axis, we wouldn't really know that I'm spinning it because it's a circular shaped item to begin with. But you click on one and you just tilt it back, forth, or anytime you're doing these, you just press the space bar, put the angle you want in there, 90 degrees, and you get a nice exact transformation to that position. I'm going to Control Z that. I'm pressing my 2 to make sure I'm back in my front position. Okay. I'm using my pan controls on my mouse. You can do that by pressing left and right and moving the mouse, or you can press the mouse wheel button and move the mouse. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this a little bit big. This is my teddy bear's body. Okay, so I want to get it in a certain size. Okay, so I like that. I'm going to apply that. All right, and you notice it looks a little bit odd. Some lines and stuff are in there, and that's because anytime you apply a primitive, it immediately goes to the ability for you to apply another primitive. Back to my front view. Okay, I'm going to reset the size of this new primitive by clicking on the reset buttons over here. And reset. Well, for whatever reason, it's not resetting the actual center. Normally it does, but I'll just do that here. And I'm gonna scale this longer. This is going to be one of my arms. Okay, let me go over here to my layers. Now that primitive that I'm working on is not yet part of the model because it's still in inactive. Until I apply it, it doesn't get attached to the layer. Now I just named the layer that the body's on, body. I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to call this one arms. Okay. And I'm going to go over here to my symmetry tool, and I'm going to make sure that the X is on and show. Okay. I'm going to bring this in here, and I think I'm going to tilt it a little and bring it back out some, just a little bit. Let's go to the side view, number 4 on the keyboard. Well, let's tilt it this way some. Whoops. Yeah, like that. And let's bring them back in. All right. Back to the front, to the side. Alrighty, I'm going to go to the front and I'm going to click apply. There is no, there it is, you got to click on the tool options. So I click apply, and there it is. Now wait a minute, why did it put my arm way over there? Well, what I forgot to do, let's Control Z out of that for now, okay, is I forgot to add symmetry to this first one. Okay, so let me go back to my first layer, to my symmetry tools, enable. Let's put the x-axis on. Look at that, it's not in the thing, so I'm going to reset my symmetry and then click it again. It's still not where I want it, so I'm going to pick, and I'm going to put it right about there for now. Reset symmetry. I want to see where we're at. Okay. I'm going to come back to this thing over here. I need to repair something that I didn't do correctly. And this is a good thing to happen because you may have to do this occasionally. So I'm going to hit my space bar. I'm going to bring up my transform tool. So now I'm not able to apply that other part yet. And so what I want to do is I want to align this to center. Okay. Let me get my symmetry off. Go back to my tool options. Align to center, to the main axis. Okay, up here my position is not 0, 0, 0. Now it's 0, 0, 0. Now let's go back to my symmetry tool and enable it. I'm going to reset it and I'm going to enable it. And now my symmetry is right in the middle of my item. Okay, so if you find yourself struggling, use your transform tool, get yourself back in the center. You can only do this if an object is not part of another part of a model, because obviously I don't want my symmetry to I don't want a piece that's going to be on the left side of something to end up in the center. Okay, just creates more work. There are other ways we use the symmetry, and that's the reason you can change it, is because perhaps I just want to model the arm on the left side and do some symmetry on it. Maybe I'm putting a watch or a bracelet or something on the arm that I want that to have some symmetry to it, but I want to do it just to the left arm, so then I would move my symmetry plane over there and do my work. Okay? Now, let's go back down here to arms and spacebar, collect my primitives, which is down here. Okay, but I also have it up here, and all you have to do to put one up here is just drag it up here. Okay, and to take it away, just drag it back down to where it belongs, and it's gone. Okay, now when it's up here, you can either click on it or you can press the number that it's on. So if you press the number 3 for primitives, then the primitives will come up. Okay, so we're back. Now it remembered the size that I had. That's the nice thing about primitives, is whatever the last one you were working with is, that's the one that's going to come back up. I just slid it in a little bit. I'm looking at a side view. Here's the front. There's the side. Okay, now let me just kind of bring it down and bring it down. Okay, it's important to know when you're looking at things where, so that's my front and that's my side, because otherwise you might be thinking this is your front. Okay, so it's important to know the relationship of what you're looking at in position to the camera. Okay, so sometimes it helps to spin things around to see left and front, and it's coming up right up here as you getting to that area. It comes up here so you have an idea of what you're looking at. Okay, I kind of like that. Now we're going to hit apply, but let's make sure the symmetry is on. It is, and it's in the middle of the big part. Great. Apply it. Boom. Now we've got arms. Okay, those are our arms. Okay, alrighty. Now I'm going to do some of this modeling quietly so that I can run it fast, and then I will just comment in the text on the video. Okay, so that's our basic bear. Almost looks like a mouse too. There's a lot of things you can make with your basic prims. Now, it's very crude looking at this point. This almost looks like you took and rolled pieces of clay and just mushed them together. They don't really have any real artistic work to this yet. This is perhaps on the level of a child. The first thing I want to do here is I want to go through and I want to attach everything to the body. So we're going to merge everything to the body. Okay. And we're doing this because I want the whole project to be one layer for now. And you could do this a lot of different ways. This is the way I wanted to present it today because I want to present things. It's interesting when you merge things that it now you can tell that it's one piece. It's not like I plugged something in a socket. Okay, they're actually welded together now, and this is nice. But what we're going to do is work on those weld joints. We're going to use smooth and we're going to use fill. Now, when you select a tool, it's important. Let's go to fill first. Okay, we're going to select the fill tool. Make sure you go up here to E panel and see what it's set on. I always like to use the middle one here. It's this way that everything is set by the information up above. Otherwise, it's looking for you to have a tablet, and it's looking for the pressure of the tablet to change the size of the brush and the pressure and all that. Now what this fill tool will do is it's going to take this valley in here and fill it up. Okay, so look at our brush. I want to increase the depth because I want this to work as fast as possible. See that? There we go. I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger so that it works over some. Okay. And that might be all I want on that particular area. Might be a little heavy. I want to look at it here. Okay, that's a little bit excessive, but it's going to be fine for what I'm doing. Up here on the neck, rather than use the fill, I'm going to use the smooth. My brush is very large. I got to bring it down, and I got my smoothing kind of high. I usually use it at 3%, but for what I'm doing in this model, this 40% is good because it gives me a quick reaction. See how that just cleans up that weld there? And now my head and my body are all joined together real nice. You can even use it on the parts you just filled if you needed to repair anything in there. I'm not going to go around this weld because I like the way it looks. But see, the ears are kind of rough looking. I'm trying to go quickly because this can erode them. In fact, if you notice, they're not quite as round as they were a minute ago. All right. So you want to be careful with that. If you find that being a problem, undo it, lower your smoothing, lower your depth, and you should be all right at that point. Let's bring it back up. Let's go down to the legs. We'll do a little smoothing down here, and then we're going to do some filling in a second because we want it to look like a hip as much as possible. All right. So we've smoothed that. Now let's get into the fill tool. And you should remember how to rotate your screen. You've got up here the ability to rotate, and you can do it all from your mouse. I'm using the mouse shortcut. You should be seeing the indicator that's telling you what buttons I'm pressing as I'm working. All right, so there we go. That looks pretty good. All right, let's go up here and click all. Everything's on the same layer, so it shows the whole bear. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make our bear look fuzzy. And we're going to do that using the Airbrush tool. But we're going to combine the Airbrush with a stencil. So we're going to go over here into our resources. And right here where it says stencils, we're going to click. All these little panels come up. There's some built-in ones, but you can also do some custom ones, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Let's get one that's going to look like fur on our bear. And we're going to change the size of these as well. Yeah, that one right there I think will do it. So let's go up here and reduce its size so that there's more dots. See how that looks kind of like a fuzzy? Okay, now looking at our brush, and up here at the top, Our radius is okay because we're not going to use the round brush. We're going to actually use the rectangle select, which is right over here. If you don't have it selected, select that. All right. Also, when you're up here, make sure you're not ignoring your back and you don't have a depth limit. Okay. I want the radius. Like I said, the radius is not important, but the depth, I've got about 20% right now. Let me just do a quick test and undo. And I'm going to close that. And I like that. Okay, it didn't come out too far. See what happens. I'm gonna show you real quick. If I had too much depth and I did the same thing, wow. Okay, because the stencil will come out the thickness of your depth when you're doing the airbrush. So let's undo both of those. Get back to my front. Pan them back down here. Let's get them down to a size that I can work with. Let's bring that back up, and it remembered my last setting. Okay, that's a good thing. Now we're in our airbrush, our rectangle. We want our depth to be about 20%. We could click up here. Sometimes that's faster, especially if you've got a brush that's so large that it overflows the whole screen. Let's rectangle select the whole bear, and bang. Ooh, it's actually too coarse. Okay, I don't like it. I'm gonna make this smaller. I undid that with a Z. Okay. I'm gonna go down about there. I'm gonna take my depth to 10%. It might have been alright, but I didn't really like the way it looked. Okay, let's go to the side. Okay, see I didn't, I left the back selected, so the back has texture as well as the front. And not certain why it didn't do it on the side there that time. Let's go back to that side view. Maybe I had it in a wrong spot. Sometimes if you're we can do this a couple different ways. Let's switch over to the round brush and let's zoom in. Hold your Alt key down and use your number 2 or 4 to get back to my side view. Hold the Alt key down, left mouse button, back and forth. You see the texture kind of moves with me. Right now I'm just kind of going to fill in some of these spots that aren't getting texture from that other selection mode. I mean, I have it, but I want it to look pretty good. So just kind of go around them. See if he looks fuzzy enough for you. If he has too much of a pattern, you can get rid of that. You just get rid of that by taking and sliding the texture and reapplying it in some areas. I don't think it looks too bad. Let's close this. Okay, so there's my teddy bear with some texture on him, so he looks a little bit like a fuzzy bear. I could have paid a little more attention to detail, like right in here, I think could have been fuzzier. But this is real good for what I just want you to learn the stenciling right now. So there we go. Okay, now there's some things I want to change about this. I want to put some eyes on him. I want to give him a nose, and I want to smooth out the insides of his ears a little bit. So let's first do his ears. So let's go to the smooth tool, and again, make sure that you're on the proper one. There's a couple ways you could do this. So let's go with that. We're going to go with this one for our thing. Let's adjust the size of our brush so that it kind of fills the inside of his ear. We're working with symmetry, so it's going to, whatever I do to this ear is going to show up in the other ear. Okay. If I go too far, it'll actually make a hole through the bear's ear. Okay. All right. I had the back selected. Let me undo what I just did. All right. Go back to the front. Ignore the back. Let's do this one more time. And there we go. All right. Let's see what that looks like. It should not have done it on the back. So let's set our depth limit. Okay. And let's make the depth limit be 10. I don't know that that's going to be right, but I'm hoping. Oh, you know what the problem is? Okay. Let me undo that because I can tell it did it. Look at the size of my depth coming in. Let's get this down so that it will be right here to the front. Now that time it should have. Wow, that's incredible. But that's an easy fix. Go back to our airbrush. Ignore the back faces. Okay, so I'm on my airbrush, back on my stencil, and bring this back up. And I'm going to make this smaller, but I'm going to just kind of go around this a little bit. Need a little more depth. Alrighty. And so I think that'll help my ears some. Let's give them a little smooth around. Yeah, that's looking a little better. Go around his edges a little bit. See how we're doing that? Is that nice? Okay, and we kept our smooth inside. I think that was a flaw in the program because the last times when I've done this by myself, it did not do the backside, or at least I didn't notice that it did. Okay, so now we want to get a nose on them, we want to get an eye on them. We're going to go down here and we're going to use the sphere tool. We used the sphere tool when we created our cup. Let's go up here to our E panel and find out what stroke we want. We're going to use this one that's called a stamp. And we don't want to ignore the back, and we definitely don't want a depth limit. Make sure you're not inverted, okay? The size of the brush is going to be the size of the eye that I put in there, all right? Now, when you have stamp mode on, it'll actually allow you to move it around as long as you're holding the button down. I'm using my left mouse button, so I'm holding it down and then apply. And there we are. Okay, so there's that, and let's put one on here for his nose, and I think that'll be perfect. What do you think? Look good to you? There's our little bear. Alright, let's see him completely. Remove some of the symmetry or the pain, and there you go. That's how quick and easy you can create a bear model. Now, I mean, that would probably be okay for some children's animation or something, but that's not the best you can achieve with 3D Coat. Trust me, when you get into the real intricate detailing of what this can do, you're going to be very impressed. For now, I wanted you to learn stenciling, how to quickly use primitives to create a model. I wanted you to learn those particular tools. So, and I also wanted you to learn that pose tool that we used earlier to help shape the neck area. I'm going to get more in detail in these items later on as we do different types of modeling. But for now, I wanted you to learn this much because the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go back to our pencil project and we're going to put some initials on the side of the pencil cup. And I'm using the initial CF for Cubify fans. And we're going to use stenciling to do it, but you're going to see me do some things different, and I'm going to explain why in a few minutes. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to come back. Okay, alright, so we're in our open folder, and what we're looking for in here is the pencil holder that we made earlier, and there it is. Now, this is a JPEG, but if you notice, the JPEG has a .3b .jpg. That actually helps you to see a preview of what you're about to load. This one up above is actually the same file, but because it's just the file for 3D Coat, you have a preview. So you can use the previews and click on those, and that'll actually help you to know that you're loading in the right thing. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to prep a couple things. I'm going to merge everything except for the cutout. Okay, so there we are. Let me undo that for 1 second. I'm going to leave the embellishments where they're at for the moment. Okay, so the pencil cup, the embellishments, and the cutout. We're going to use the cutout in a little bit, and we're going to start by selecting the pencil cup. we're going to make a copy of it. Okay, I'm going to make some things invisible because we're going to work on this copy that we've got going. So I turned off the pencil cup main and turned off the embellishments. The cutout was already cut out or turned off. Let me turn the embellishments back on for a second, but I'm going to reduce their transparency. And we're going to go to this tool called a Cutoff tool, and you want to make sure that what you're going to work on is highlighted. This tool will cut off the parts that you asked for. Okay, so the embellishments are reduced in transparency. That protects them. Using the rectangle on my Airbrush, I'm going to go down here and cut, and I'm going to go down here and cut. And the reason that I'm cutting is to reduce the number of triangles that are in this particular item. At the moment, I've got it down to, and if you notice, you've got all of them, the visible ones, as well as the current object. So this object alone has 264 triangles. Let's go to the top view, come over here, and now the front is here on the bottom. And so let's rectangle select about that far in, cut. Go back to the front, and that's where we're going to be. Now we're going to put the initials on this part because we want to do this in a higher resolution than the rest of the cup so that we get good detail. I'll explain that in a moment. Okay, let's go here to our custom stencils, and let's go up, and here we have a CF, and there it is. I created this just to play around with. So let's zoom it in, get it about the size of the part we're working on, and then we're going to do a little more cutting. I just wanted to see where it is in relationship to what we got first. That looks pretty good. So right about there. You can actually turn a grid on up here, and you can even tell it to snap or not snap to the grid. That helps you to see where things are in relation. If necessary, I could have lined up this part first. Some things you can do with eyeball. So I'm going to turn the grid back off, but I wanted you to know it's there for you. Now, when you're using a stencil, it's important to know that whatever is light is what's going to be stamped. Okay, so if I were to take right now the rectangle tool and go over top of this right here, because the letters are dark, they actually go in, but you notice it also left some deformation here, so that's not the best way to go in. Alright, so let's undo that, and I want you to notice it's not very clear, and that's because I don't have a high enough resolution on this piece. Alright, so let's undo that. And for some reason, we're not getting an undo effect. Let me go up here and see if the undo will work up here. Okay, there we go. It took a little bit to get it there. Let's go back to the cutoff for a second and see what happens if I can cut off all my stencils up. I don't think I can. Okay, see how that actually left parts of it? It's important you understand that, again, whatever's dark is what it's going to respond to. So Control F. Let's turn this off for a moment. We have a pretty good idea where this is going to be. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of about here. Turn this back on, and it's right where we want it to be. But we need to invert it. So we go up here to Stencil, Modulate, Invert. Now, when I go over here to Extrude, or Airbrush, and I select this with my rectangle, it comes out. Again, the resolution is not where I want it to be. So let's undo that. Go down here. This little button down here is to increase the resolution. Let's click it once. It brought us up to 159,000. Let's do it one more time. It'll give us a real fine. It's 637 triangles, just this little part by itself. Let's go ahead and select it with the airbrush under rectangle mode. It's taking a while to process. Look how clean that is. Okay, now let's just kind of look at the depth of it. Got nice depth. All right, let's turn off this background. We're done with that. Okay, that is awesome. Okay, let's go to the front view. Let's turn everything back on. Okay, cutout can be off. Alrighty, now let's go to the very top view for the moment. And what I want to see here first is I want to go to my transform tool, and I'm going to move this inward. I turned the cup off so I can see. Okay, I had to do this stencil part cut out over, so that's why some of the things look a little bit differently, but I'm at the same point. So anyways, we pushed it in now to where it's just on the inside of the cup, but the stenciled letter is still hidden in the wall. And we're going to turn our cutout on, and we're going to subtract that from the pencil main copy, which I should call letters. It's going to take a little bit of time because there is some triangles there. Okay, so let's just call that our letters. And there we go. So there we have that. Let's push that out so you can see. And I want to turn everything else off but the letters. But look at that. Nice and clear. Here we are with the front view. Perfect. It could be a higher resolution, but it's still a very pretty, it's pretty clean for what we're doing right now. Alright, let's turn the pencil cup back on. Let's turn the embellishments on. Let's bring it down some. Okay. And there's your cup. And now you have it. That's how we add a monogram or some initials. We could have done anything we wanted. I could put a picture of a cartoon character in there as long as it was basically black and white or shades of gray. The stencil will actually react differently to different tones between the black and white. We'll get more into stenciling in another video. This one's already been taking quite a bit of your time. Enjoy what you've learned. Play with it. Love to see what you make. Send us a message back on Cubify Fans or a message on YouTube, and tell us what you're doing. You have a great day. Thanks for watching the 3D Code Experience. Bye-bye.